UFC 270 has officially taken place. Francis Ngannou retains his UFC heavyweight title, takes out his ex-training partner Cyril Gane. Now, I got some bold thoughts about what we just saw this past Saturday. I'm going to give you guys my objective opinion in regards to that fight, but more importantly, as a whole in regards to the UFC heavyweight division. I'm warning some of you guys now, it's going to ruffle a few of your feathers. I've already had some of you guys coming at me on IG leading into UFC 270 based on the way I've been describing and talking about Francis Ngannou. I want to make it clear, I like Francis Ngannou. The guy is a freak of nature. He's a very talented fighter, but I'm going to tell you my objective opinion of what I'm seeing inside the octagon, and just from an outsider's view, an outsider's vantage point of what I see in regards to the UFC heavyweight division. So, take it easy on me, guys. If you agree or disagree, comment below. Let me know. Let's get into it. The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
All right, so let's take a look at this fight real quick. The fight takes place. Cyril Gane goes out, closes the distance, engages in the clinch. I thought that this was a very smart move. If we could mention one of the few smart things that him and his team did this past Saturday. I did like this move here. I think that this is the key as far as going out there and taking out Francis Ngannou. I think he's a complete front runner. He's a guy that needs to knock you out in rounds 1 or 2, or we have seen, at least so far, that he loses significant power. You see how wild this technique is, and that once he loses a little bit of that steam from those first rounds, then his technique really gets highlighted, because he's not that technical of a striker. He's an absolute steamroller. He has crazy power, and he's a very different fighter in the later rounds. So I love the fact that Cyril Gane did that in the first 2 rounds. Cyril goes out there, takes rounds 1 and 2. There's no argument about that. Anyone that thinks that Francis won rounds 1 or 2, you're not even worth talking to, really. And the sad part about this is actually one judge gave Francis Ngannou either rounds 1 or 2, because one of the judges scored the fight for Francis 4-1, which is just ridiculous. I can't even get my mind around that. But anyways, so Cyril goes out there, he wins rounds 1 and 2. Big props to Francis for changing the game plan and showing that he has a lot of heart. That's one thing that Francis definitely showed in this fight. I think that's an X factor in regards to Francis. He has big time heart. He was never down and out in this fight. He was willing to change up some tactics. We saw Francis get the big time slam on Cyril Gane. Although, Gane had it, he was going for a kick. He was off balance and he got caught into that slam. Big props to Francis there. But anyone that's been on social media raving about the leaps and bounds that Francis Ngannou has taken, it's just been driving me nuts. Reading and seeing these comments and whatnot, seeing the posts. I was not impressed by anything that I've seen from Francis this past Saturday. In fact, I think it highlighted that the heavyweight division is really lacking as a whole. And the heavyweight division is a division that's very shallow. Let's be clear. It always has been one of the more shallow divisions. There's not as many people that walk around at that size, and it's just not comparable to the lighter weight divisions. I think that the UFC heavyweight division is almost comparable to some of the women's divisions. That's growing. Both of them are growing, but we're watching them, and there's clearly something missing here. Again, now Francis Ngannou wins the rounds 3 and 4, and whoever's going to win round 5 is going to win this fight. Okay, both these guys are exhausted. Cyril Gane goes out in the 5th round, makes a very nice move. He's able to solidify a takedown in the 5th round, and he's able to sit in Francis Ngannou's guard, which is that's a big time position for him there. When he's in Francis Ngannou's guard there, he's sitting there for a little bit. He solidifies the position. Now, keep in mind, he was also winning the beginning of that round. Before he got that takedown, he was on the feet with Francis for about a minute and a half, and he was outpointing Francis. Francis really wasn't even touching him. And Cyril Gane actually had a little resurgence in cardio, was landing some kicks that had a little whip to them, nice little jab, scored some points, gets that takedown. He's in Francis's guard, and then he chooses to make a decision that, in my opinion, is the worst MMA fighter IQ move that I've ever seen, especially with what was on the line, the weight that it carried, the UFC heavyweight championship of the world. He could have easily sat in Francis's guard for another minute or two, which at that point, Francis would have been down from the first minute and a half on the feet. He would have been controlled for a minute or two. And then even if the referee stood it up or Francis somehow got back up and even got a takedown, it wouldn't have mattered at that point. And Cyril would have won this fight. And that's what it is. I see people commenting on some of my Instagram posts that are in denial, big Francis fans. That's what it was. There's no argument. I'm sorry, man. Some people were saying, oh, he would have won the fight regardless. Elaborate. Go ahead. Give me some actual facts or details. If you want to talk MMA and you want to talk like you know what you're talking about, give me some facts. Give me some real substance to what you're saying, because just saying that, it just shows me you really don't know what you're watching and what you're seeing. We're trying to dissect what we're watching here. Cyril Gane chose to drop back for a heel hook to go for the finish. He had no business doing that. He could have easily won the fight. His coaches were really lacking, in my opinion. His head coach, I was not impressed from what I saw from him. I didn't like what he was saying in between rounds. He wasn't giving him clear answers and advice of what to do. He was more so just saying you need to win the round. I like the motivational speech, but we need some more substance there. There's some clear fighter IQ holes and on their side of things coming from over there, and it's to be expected. Cyril Gane's only been fighting for a limited amount of time, and he's fighting for the biggest spot in the heavyweight division of all MMA, but he's only been fighting MMA for 3 years, and he has 10 professional fights going into this fight. But he drops back for that heel hook, blows the round, because once he doesn't get that submission, Francis is able to end up getting on top position, and he just does absolutely nothing there. There's just a massive man sitting on Cyril Gane. Francis didn't land any shots. He just controlled position. I think you could have even argued that Cyril Gane could have won that fifth round, but you knew that wasn't going to happen based on the fact that, Ngannou was the champion, and just riding that top time out. He was there for a significant time after Cyril Gane pulled that heel hook. All right, guys. So I'm going to get to the point in a second here, but Cyril Gane blew this fight. I want to be clear. I'm not impressed from what I saw from Ngannou. I'm not impressed from what I've seen from the top of the heavyweight division. And I think that there's a clear avenue for any high caliber wrestlers that are out there, whether you're a collegiate wrestler, you're past that stance, and you're whether you're an Olympic, you have wrestled in the Olympics, this and that, a guy like Gable Steveson. I think there's a clear route to work your way right to the top of the division. And I think that I want to talk about the Stipe Miocic fight here for a second, right? Him and Francis are 1-1. I was telling everybody that if Stipe Miocic didn't go into that firefight and engaged in a more disciplined type of fight, which we want to talk about lacking IQ, Stipe Miocic and his coaches really messed things up in the second fight when Stipe was engaging in the firefight with Francis. The recipe is there. Stipe should have known this from the first fight. He should have been clinching up, wearing on Francis. A guy like Stipe, if he was in this type of fight from the third round, fourth round, fifth round, he would absolutely destroy these guys. He would have been out wrestling them. He would have been fresher, and he would have been grounding, pounding them up, and been solidifying rounds. So you give me Stipe Miocic and Francis Ngannou right now. I'm letting you guys know right now, free play. I'm banking on Stipe Miocic. And you know what? I'm going to say this too, and I will admit that I was kind of not feeling this way towards the beginning, but I do feel like this now. Jone Jones comes into this division, and I think that he takes out Cyril Gane or Francis Ngannou. I think that Jone Jones comes up, he becomes a double champ. I know he's not currently the light heavyweight champion, but he will be a guy that was now a champion at the light heavyweight division and the heavyweight division. Jone Jones goes in there and defeats both these fighters from what I just saw this past Saturday. I was not impressed from what I saw from either fighters, and I'm telling you, it was very, very unimpressive. Now we go to the heavyweight division. We take a look at the rankings. Cyril Gane still currently ranked, the number one contender. We'll see how these rankings are updated. I say Stipe Miocic takes out both these guys. Run that trilogy fight back. And I want to say this too. The disrespect to the greatest heavyweight champion of all time, hearing the media question Francis Ngannou after the fight, not even remembering that Stipe Miocic is a UFC fighter. They're talking about, the ranking the top heavyweights and going from Francis Ngannou down to Cyril Gane or Jone Jones, just completely looking over Stipe Miocic. Stipe Miocic whoops up Cyril Gane, and he whoops up Francis Ngannou in the rematch. I'm telling you guys, this is what's going to happen. And you guys are going to see this unfold. Jone Jones comes in and whoops Francis Ngannou, whoops Cyril Gane. Was not impressed from what I saw. Now, there always is that ability that Francis can knock you out in the first round, but I'll bank against that first round knockout with a fighter that has a high fighter IQ, has those wrestling abilities, and now that we have more tape out there and more of a recipe to see how to defeat Francis Ngannou, clinch him up, run out there and clinch him up. We scroll through the heavyweight division here. Now, I will say this. The one thing benefiting Gane and Francis is that when you take a look at the top 15 in regards to the heavyweight division, there's not a lot of wrestlers. And another guy I do want to mention is Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades has some high caliber wrestling. He also is lacking in some skills. He makes the big mistake a lot of times. Of course, Francis had that knockout over him. I think Curtis Blades can also take a little something from this fight and learn the recipe to win these fights. But Curtis Blades does tend to drop the ball. Ran into that flying knee from Derek Lewis. He runs into a lot of big punches. He needs to work on some things defensively. But if he sticks to the plan and gets the fight to the later rounds, he could really work the wrestling there. But then you take a look at the entire division. It's full of strikers. Derek Lewis, Alexander Volkov, Jairzinho Rosenstruck, Chris Dawkins, Shamil Abdurakhimov. Has a little bit of grappling, but he's just not on the level of those guys towards the top. Marcin Tybura, striker. Tom Aspinall, full of talent, but another striker. Augusto Sakai, boxer. Blagoy Ivanov has some sambo and whatnot, but I don't think he's in the level of those guys. He's not going to be able to keep up with just the overall athleticism and skill of those guys. So I don't think there's any threats here. Sergey Pavlovich, Walt Harris. There's no real threats in the top 15. I mean, we are talking about Francis Ngannou, Cyril Gane, Stipe Miocic, and Jone Jones, and also mix Derek Lewis in with the element that he brings to the table. He's a phenomenal fighter, has that knockout power too. But I am not impressed of what I've seen. And real quick, I just want to brush upon this real quick. I think Gable Steveson, if he were to start brushing upon his MMA, he can make a quick run to the top of the UFC heavyweight championship. I really, really believe that. Give him a couple years, a year or two, whatever it is, sharpen up on some defensive things and just work the wrestling game. And he's taken all these guys down. And he has, forget about the heart this guy has. I mean, this guy is an Olympic gold medalist. The cardio he has, the grind that he's been through. I think that he whoops these guys up. And in my opinion, it's a little unfortunate. We don't see a lot of these big time wrestlers from the upper weight classes coming into MMA. Of course, there's not as many of them as the lighter weight classes. It just is what it is. But I think over time, we're going to start to see this narrative start to come in. I'm telling you guys. Another thing, I think Daniel Cormier, not that he's going to make a comeback and he's up there in age, but if Cormier would have hung around, I think Cormier takes out Francis Ngannou. Cormier takes out Cyril Gane. I believe that. I really do. I think we need to hold a little bit more respect to guys like Daniel Cormier, Stipe Miocic. And I was one of these guys that bit into it a little bit too. I was very high in Cyril Gane. I love this footwork to avoid the takedowns, but I think that this last performance, he showed to have some holes in his game, but he will work on them and he will come back stronger. But keep an eye for guys like this, Gable Steveson. I don't know if he's going to be coming over. There was some rumors about him going to Bellator. Looks like he might go to the WWE. And speaking of freak type things like that, Tyson Fury letting Francis Ngannou know that if he wants to make some real money, come over to the boxing side of things. Francis Ngannou's contract is done. I mean, I would tune in. You guys know that I would tune in for this fight. There's no question about that. But I will also say, don't expect this to be what some of you guys may think it's going to be, because what's going to happen is Tyson Fury would absolutely style and destroy Francis Ngannou, destroy him. You put him in a 12-round fight, he's getting the finish. Francis Ngannou's boxing is lacking so much more than some of you guys notice. The power of Francis Ngannou is ridiculous. The guy is a specimen, and he's getting away with that right now. But you put him in a boxing match, you put those big gloves on, and he's going to get really exposed against, in my opinion, the greatest heavyweight boxer of all time, in Tyson Fury. You put him right up there with Ali, all the greats. So, that's how I feel. And if it's going to happen, I'll tune in, I'll watch. But I don't know if it's going to happen. We'll see. Francis Ngannou kind of changed his tune a little bit. And I want to see the trilogy with Stipe Miocic, or I want to see Jone Jones step in there with Ngannou. But, and again, I have no problem with Francis. I have no problem with Francis Ngannou. But I will tell you guys what I believe I'm seeing when I'm watching these fights. And I think you're watching a guy that is just so raw with athleticism and physical abilities, but he's a guy that's not polished up right now. And he's already getting up there in age. And I think he's getting away with some things with his power, and eventually will be exposed, maybe in a similar way that Deontay Wilder was, right? A guy that ran through boxing very quickly, but when he fought a guy that was really on the level, he got exposed, like Tyson Fury exposed Deontay Wilder. So these are my thoughts on what we saw this past Saturday. And again, I'm completely transparent. I lost a play on Cyril Gane here, but I think that I would take that play again. I think that Cyril Gane, I think he just made one mistake that cost him the fight. And if you don't understand that, if you don't know what you're seeing, don't get mad at me. This is what I think. I respect your guys' opinions too. Hit the comment section up below. Let me know what you guys think. I know I'm going to get a little backlash here. Hopefully you guys don't take it too personal, and you don't get too riled up and upset. Hopefully none of you guys cry or nothing like that. All right, guys. So on that note, I'm going to sign out here. Expect much more content constantly coming to you guys. Signing out, Teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.